Today we're going to talk about properties of matter. If you haven't taken the chance to watch the videos on properties of copper, magnesium, or ethanol, stop what you're doing right now. Either watch those videos first and come back to this video to fill out your guided notes, or pull out your guided notes and just fill them out while you're watching the videos. You need to see those videos. There are some pretty cool and fun demonstrations that we do that I think you'll enjoy and that will make these notes make a lot more sense. So let's first define a property. A property is any characteristic that describes matter. Pretty simple definition, don't you think? Any characteristic that describes matter. Now, those characteristics could be either chemical, so we call them chemical properties, or they could be physical. And you're right, we call those physical properties. We'll be talking about these in a lesson coming up really soon. For right now, I just want you guys to understand what a property is and to be able to give some examples. And once again, if you watch the videos, it should be pretty straightforward. So we started with copper in the videos, and we asked about the color, and it stayed at room temperature. And we said copper was orange. That's why I'm using my orange pencil today, right? Some of you guys might have said, it's a copper color. And you know what? I'm not going to argue with you. I think copper could be considered a color. So if you wanted to say, hey, the color of copper is copper, you win. It stayed at room temperature, was a solid, and we abbreviate that with the lowercase s in parentheses to let you know it's a solid at room temperature. Was copper soluble in water? No, it wasn't. What do we call something that's not soluble in water? Do you remember the word I used? It was insoluble in water. Did it sink in water? You bet it did. So it sinks in water. That's definitely a property of copper. It's a characteristic that describes it, right? And that means its density is greater than water's density, which is 1 gram per milliliter. So if you remember the lab we did not too long ago, we found the density of water was 1. Anything with a density greater than that would sink. So copper's density must be greater than 1. Was it attracted by a magnet? No, it wasn't. So we said it was non-magnetic. Did it react with hydrochloric acid? Nope, it didn't. So we said it was unreactive with hydrochloric acid. The formula for hydrochloric acid, you may have seen in the video, is HCl. Did it burn in air? Nope, it didn't. So something that does not burn, we say, is non-flammable. So copper was non-flammable. All right. Well, what about magnesium? Wasn't that the next thing that we looked at? So let's take a look at some properties of magnesium. The same thing. The first property was, what was its color? And I think we said it was silver. Or you guys may have said gray. And we said all elemental metals are silver or gray in color except for 2. And you hopefully remember the 2 that are not. It was another solid at room temperature, wasn't it? Let's see. The next one. What did it do? What was our next one? Let's see what it was. We were looking at number 3. Was it soluble in water, and did it sink in water? So was magnesium soluble in water? It wasn't, so we'd say it would be insoluble in water. Did it sink in water? It did. So we said it sinks in water. So we know its density is greater than 1 gram per mil. How about number 5? Was it attracted by a magnet? Yep, you're right. You remembered. So it's non-magnetic. Did it react with HCl? It did, didn't it? So we said it was reactive with hydrochloric acid. It bubbled and fizzed and got warm, produced some hydrogen gas. And then how about flammability? Yeah, that was really fun, wasn't it? It was definitely flammable. We had a very bright white light that was given off by magnesium. In fact, if you were here in the room and you were looking at it, I would say make sure you don't stare at the flame because you'd actually see little dots afterwards. Magnesium is a very bright white flame. All right, then we did, if you recall, we did ethanol. So what properties did we learn for ethanol? So let's see. It was colorless. Remember that word for something that doesn't have a color? And it was a liquid at room temperature. How do you think we abbreviate liquid at room temperature? That's right, a lowercase l in parentheses. You guys are good. Was it soluble in water? Yeah, you bet it was. We didn't see two layers at all. So we're going to write soluble in water. It definitely dissolved in water. Did it sink in water or did it float? Do you remember? Yeah, we couldn't tell, could we? So we had to put a question mark. Now, we could have done an experiment with it and found the mass and the volume and figured out if it was greater than or less than 1, but we didn't take the time to do that. So we're going to leave it as a question mark. We just don't know from the experiments that we performed in our demonstrations. How about magnetism? Yeah, that wasn't very fun, was it? It was non-magnetic. It's definitely a property of ethanol. It's a characteristic that describes that piece of matter. Did it react with HCl? Nope. It was non-reactive or unreactive with hydrochloric acid. Was ethanol flammable? You bet it was. I should have driven my little Hummer car through it. Wouldn't that have been fun to watch? It's definitely flammable. Once again, it's a characteristic that describes that piece of matter. All right, in another lesson, we're going to talk about whether these properties that we've just described are either chemical properties or physical properties. So we'll actually come back to this page in a little bit to discuss that. So hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you soon.